So Garrett, just tell me when you. This is going to be streamed as well on the internet and recorded. This speech. All right. So hello everybody. I'm extremely glad to see such a large crowd of people here. I know everybody is very busy, so hopefully this is not going to be a waste of time. So this lecture will be also streamed over the internet and will be recorded and later available on through the website of the Design Media Arts department here at UCLA. So I'm Professor Huhtamo, and I'm one of the Senate faculty at the Department of Design Media Arts. I'm also shared professor at the Film, Television and Digital Media department. And today I want to talk to you about a topic that I'm really very interested in myself and about which I cannot say that I would be the greatest specialist. I kind of like sometimes a little bit of risk-taking, which means that my research goes along many lines, and those who know it so also know that it covers a very sort of like long period of time. So my work covers probably about half a millennium, so about 500 years. So from the 16th century up to the present, and I like doing research in such a way because I often feel that these sort of like different interests of mine sort of like feed each other. So create ideas by combining and juxtaposing those things. So my lecture today will be, as I promised, about internet meme culture. I call it Making Sense of Internet Memes, Media Archaeological Perspectives on the Traffic of Images on the Internet. And I guess that I have to mention first that the image that I'm showing here on my title slide is not something that I made myself. I actually did find it on the internet, and it might well be somebody who was completely bored or had fed up with my endless talks about media archaeology, so giving a sort of like little comment on the meme space. Because media archaeology has got a lot of feedback in the past 5-6 years, and it is a field that I sort of like started as one of the founders about 20 years ago. So, talking about contrasts, I would like to just show you, this is the cover of my most recent English language book, which is called Illusions in Motion. Media Archaeology of the Moving Panorama and Related Spectacles, published in 2013. And I would just basically like to show it as an example of this certain kind of varied interest, because that book does not talk about memes at all. It is a book that mostly looks at 19th century and this kind of shows that have disappeared a long, long time ago. They were called moving panorama shows, where something like this was presented for the audience. This was before even the film, so movies were invented. So basically huge and long painting that was moved by the system of hand cranking. And out of this topic I wrote about 450 pages. It took me about 10 years to finish the book. And I just finished a new book which I submitted already for the MIT Press, hopefully be published next year. And that book is called Magical Devices. So this talk today is not going to be in that new book. So hopefully this will be another book, but it might easily take 2 or 3 years of sort of like work, at least because there is much that we don't know. So, talking about internet memes, let's start with a video.
All your base are belong to us.
We'll do it live! Tide goes in, tide goes out. Never miscommunication.
Boom and shot! Chocolate ring!
I want you
off the fucking set, you prick!
So this is my first video blog.
Teachers have souls!
It's over 9,000!
My name is Boxy.
Never gonna give you up!
The balls are inert.
Hide your kids.
Is this real life?
It's my dick in a box! Don't copy that, floppy!
I'll take a potato chip and eat it.
Consequences will never be the same!
We've got the money because we know how to rap.
It's no fight.
Objection!
This was a triumph.
It's Friday.
I hear Iceland!
Mama Luigi!
It's a double rainbow all the way.
You're our favorite indeed!
In West Philadelphia!
I decided not to go through all the 149. 149 is a very small sampling of the world of internet memes, and 100 greatest internet memes is even less. As all of you know, so we talk about the huge phenomenon which is very difficult to measure or count, and something that is changing all the time. I'm sure that many of you recognized memes right here that you have encountered and maybe passed on for others as well. So the phenomenon, I think it is a sort of like kind of a problem for researchers. So we have a huge number, not only so-called internet memes, but we have different kinds of forms in which they exist, different kind of genres. So basically it is a very sort of like varied phenomenon. This is just a few samplings from that thing, including the ceiling cat, of course, which was not originally probably meant to be a meme, but then it went viral and people started changing these captions, and this is probably not politically very correct one that you see, but became very famous on the internet. Now, we have certain kind of ways of measuring how important internet meme culture has become. And one interesting example is a brand new one, which I want to show you next, so which is another video.
Welcome aboard, and thanks for flying with Delta. Our first priority on every flight is safety. So before we depart, I'll be giving a brief safety presentation. Okay, be sure all carry-on items are securely stowed in an overhead bin. And place smaller items under the seat in front of you.
This is so demeaning.
And ensure all aisles, exits, and bulkhead areas are clear. If you're seated at an emergency exit, please review the responsibilities for emergency exit seating on the back of the safety information card, which is in your seat pocket.
Are you willing and able to assist with the operation of the exit if necessary?
Yes.
No. If you're unable to perform these functions, please let us know and we'd be happy to find you another seat.
Yes.
As we leave the gate, make sure your seatbelt is fastened. To fasten, insert the metal tip into the buckle and adjust the strap so it's low and tight across your lap. To release the belt, just lift the top of the buckle. Please remain seated with your seatbelt securely fastened anytime the seatbelt sign is on. And even if the sign is off, please keep your seatbelt fastened in case we experience unexpected rough air. For everyone's safety, federal regulations require all passengers to comply with the posted placards and lighted information signs located throughout the cabin, in addition to any crew member instructions. Smoking, including the use of e-cigarettes, is not allowed on any Delta flight.
So this is supposedly real and not a fake, the Delta Airlines new safety video. And what is really interesting, if it is real, is the fact how Delta is relying on the fact how deeply this sort of like internet mentality has affected the sort of like the world of air passengers. So you could imagine that like there may be many old people who don't fully get all these meme jokes that are part of that thing. On the other hand, if we imagine that the younger generations now form the sort of like the major clientele for these international airlines, I guess it makes a lot of sense, because that makes them look at those screens when that safety video is being played, which is not always the case on airlines. What is even more interesting is that Delta goes even further. In this campaign for that video, Delta has recruited the YouTube celebrity Lena Morris as their sort of like kind of a guest figure. And Lena Morris, as anybody who knows about internet image macro memes, is this girl in the overly attached girlfriend genre of this type. In some cases, we actually do find links and connections between memes as kind of like a quickly spreading figures on the internet and real people. So, for example, in this case, very famous scumbag Steve was found out to be a person named Blake Boston, who obviously became a little bit unhappy about certain aspects of turning from an individual into an internet phenomenon, and which read a lot of messages on Twitter and elsewhere, and made it all the way to British afternoon newspapers, talking about the identity of scumbag Steve and how the picture was made, and is Steve really a scumbag, or is he a really nice guy, or all these things. But in many cases also these things are not exactly revealed, and when memes like this one about scumbag Steve keep spreading on the internet, we see that anyway huge separation is growing between a person who may be the one posing in this photo taken by his mother and a certain kind of stock character known by this name, spreading in countless variations, tens of thousands of variations on the internet. So what we talk about here is an interesting challenge for researchers of media culture and visual culture. And to put it simply, so the issue is, how do we make sense of all this? Because it is something that's changing so quickly. It is sort of like being varied from moment to moment and so on. It seems like always it's a few steps ahead of any researcher. And actually, the fact is that we have amazingly little, at least little interesting research on the internet meme culture at that moment. And I'm not claiming that I would be able to sort of like give any final answers. But in this talk, I want to sort of like present couple of ways of making sense of this whole phenomenon. And I would be very pleased if after I get my things said, if you had some comments, because I don't think that any one of us knows all that there is to say about this field. The field is changing, and people have very different kinds of expertise about that. And I certainly cannot say that I'm the greatest expert on the internet memes, even though I do try to sort of like follow what's happening and sort of like collect also a lot of material from the internet. So some of the basic questions we should ask is, first of all, of course, what is an internet meme? How new, in other words, unprecedented, is the internet meme phenomenon? What phenomena are internet memes related with, if any? Also, we should ask how random or organized is the so-called traffic in memes. This means the way how the memes keep on circulating on the internet. What decides the popularity and proliferation of certain meme strings? String refers to a series of memes that are kind of variation either from a certain textual idea or certain kind of visual motive as they develop on the internet. Also, how do meme transmissions evolve in time? Are memes forgotten and new ones introduced in their place, or are the memes accumulating into a huge archive? This is a very interesting and important question because it seems like some of them go out of fashion and then new fashions keep on popping up. But the internet is a very special kind of a place and storage in the sense that basically it keeps traces of everything. So it leads to very interesting questions. Could there be meme revivals? For example, rediscovery of forgotten memes and a new wave of popularity in some different context and that kind of things? Or is it really so that certain memes will disappear completely out of the memory, they're never to be seen again? All that kind of ideas. We should also ask, are there traffic rules? I'm just speaking about this metaphorically. So are there traffic rules and who obeys them? How are these rules transmitted? Because it seems that there is a lot of randomness, seeming randomness in the way how these memes become kind of fashions and keep on just moving in place to place. But there are also certain kind of signs that the meme culture is finding its certain kind of rules and regulations. And memes themselves, in this case, image macro memes or rage memes, so provide us some signs of that. So there is a growing number, I would say, of memes that in a way, perhaps tongue-in-cheek manner, try to sort of like comment on what people should do or what they should not do with this meme, sort of like meme phenomenon. So something like what you see here in the Boromir meme or Rage Guy or Why You Know Guy memes. And this is a very small selection of these kind of things, but that's something that I didn't see actually that much a few years back. So I guess that there's something happening behind it. So those who don't know, so what are these memes and how they happen, let me just show a very brief example about the image macro memes, which is one type of memes and the one that I'm going to concentrate mostly on this talk, because as I mentioned in the beginning, the phenomenon is so huge that it would be impossible to cover everything. So one very simple way of making memes is to go to one of those meme generator sites that we can find on the internet. So those sites provide a lot of material in terms of images, sort of like seed images, also voting systems, rating systems, huge archives, search engines and things like that. So that's easy to find things. Also, sites like Meme Generator make it very easy to sort of like make new memes and send them out to the internet. For example, I was just playing with this site just for this purpose. I just wrote it, what would Baudrillard say, using the Velociraptor sort of like seed image in this case. So, and if I like it, so I just decide to generate that. You also, as I mentioned, find most popular characters, for example, this Why You Know, which has been popular for quite some time, or Futurama Fry, and so on. And so if you are interested in those things, you can just like add a text and send it out. But I can tell you that very few of this kind of deliberately concocted, made memes make it into a meme. So I have been playing it sometimes with some students also, playing with the idea, what is an absolutely successful meme? If I make one and I send it out, like in a few months it will be all around. And it seems like it's extremely difficult to make a meme deliberately. So it often depends on many other factors than sort of like this kind of design orientation. At least I haven't had any success at all, even though I have done some for fun and see if anyone will be picked up really. So I think that the successful ones which are sort of like going out in sort of like huge quantities and being transmitted are something else. So it is also possible, and I think it's even more difficult, to not only manipulate those texts, but actually to post your own image and hope that that image will be picked up as a meme image. So this is the case on the world of meme generator and so image macro memes. Then of course, I mean that there is a viral element that starts spreading these from social media sites, and they are visited through so many ways that I don't think that even makes sense to sort of like talk about that. So through meme generated sites, some people actually visit them through Google, so image search, or just get them from their sort of like Facebook feeds, or check them on Twitter. Even Flickr special sort of like meme thematic sites can be found. So the researcher who has done the most interesting work is this Israeli researcher Limor Shifman. And if you haven't seen, and if you're interested in haven't seen her research, I will show the book in the next slide. And she defines internet meme in a quite logical way. She says that internet meme is something that has three features. First of all, it's a group of digital items. So it is not a single thing, but it is always a group of things, like a tradition around the good guy Greg, or that kind of thing, with variations. So there would be, first of all, shared common characteristics of content, form, and or stance. Stance means a kind of attitude. 2, they are created with awareness of each other. So there is a certain kind of awareness of what has been done and people wanting to add something. This is less obvious, by the way, when we talk about like videos and video-based memes and that kind of thing. So I will go back to that, cut back to that soon. 3, they are something that is circulated, imitated, and transformed via the internet by multiple users. So the meme is not something that is about an individual in the end, even though it may be originally something that some single person posts, but it only turns into a meme when many other people get involved in different roles with that thing. So this is how she defines internet meme in her book, which is called Memes in Digital Culture. This is a relatively cheap book. It's published by the MIT Press, which is also my publisher. And I do recommend. It's very readable and quite knowledgeable about this topic. So in that book, she also raises this question about meme genres. This basically means different types of memes. How can we classify those? And these are the categories that Limor Shifman actually finds. So reaction Photoshop's photo fads, flash mobs, lip sync or lipped up memes, misheard lyrics, recut trailers, lolcats, stock character macros, and rage comics or rage faces. And she says that this is not an exhaustive list, which is true. So there are probably other types as well. I'm not going to go in the interest of time into all of those things. And I think that basically, I think almost all of you, if you use the internet, have seen examples of all of those. Reaction photoshops, for example, taken images that spread on the internet and so modify it somehow and make a comment, so intervention into the image and put it back. Lip syncing, so music videos, adding a new soundtrack. Misheard lyrics, providing with in a different language lyrics for music videos on the YouTube, which make them look ridiculous because it's not an actual. It's just a translation of what it sounds like. So people without understanding what really is being sung in the song and so on. So I'm going to mostly concentrate here on the stock character macros and the rage comics, the two final ones in the list. Now, a very important thing is that people always say that viral images or viral transmissions on the internet is pretty much the same as meme or meme transmission. And it has to be kept in mind that this is not always the case. So internet meme is not the same as a viral message, like viral video or image or advertisement. So many things can be spread virally on the internet without essential changes. So the meme, so something that is viral, also like spreading through the social media, and so starts turning into a meme when it starts being modified and transformed and commented on by people. So there is the sort of like difference. Sometimes an ad, for example, some kind of like a commercial that is meant to be virally spread through the internet, stays pretty much the same. It's passed on by many people. Oh, have you seen this? Look at that. That's amazing thing. So that should not be mixed up with the meme. So here I do also agree with some other researchers. So for me also, internet meme is something that changes, gaining new meanings as it is spread and transformed. So, for example, when this kind of like a famous internet video like the Star Wars Kid gets, which is a very early example of this kind of viral video, so 2002, so before the social media really took off. So even though it has been spreading hugely, so often it is viewed, so something like over 1 billion views, so it is often seen in the original form. So, but of course, we can see that any such video can give rise to memes when people start imitating that, like you see happening on many YouTube channels. So people making their own comical versions of this and that, so pop music videos or just any type of sort of like video content. And if other people pick it up and so on, and perhaps turn it also not into a video, but maybe just in a still picture and then sort of like into a kind of image macro meme, so then this meme formation is happening. There is some sort of like discussion on the internet about this, and there is quite a lot of also confusion. What is an internet meme? For example, there's one website, so somebody made this up. This is inventor Hugo Gernsback, original picture from the early 1960s in a Life magazine photo shoot. Because he had started talking about this kind of a television goggles over in the 1930s. And the Life made a sort of like a big feature about him, so like several spreads in the Life magazine. So for that scene, so he concocted non-functioning, supposedly some kind of like a proto-virtual reality head-mounted display type of device. And so this person who put it on the internet, so added the text, the rarely seen Google Glass prototype. Now, he put it there basically to say that he understands that this is not an internet meme. And this is kind of like interesting what he was writing. This was on the PopTech Jam site, image macros and memes, same but different. So this, my fellow jammers, so meaning the previous one, is an example of an image macro that is not, I learned recently, an internet meme. Well, not yet anyway. While my bit of goofy photo fun meets the image macro criteria, it is a captioned image that consists of a picture and a witty message or a catchphrase. It has yet to sweep through the internet like a relentless plague on humanity like this. And put the Gangnam Style as an example. And again, this is basically a comment version on the Gangnam Style. It's not the original the music video, but shows how the Gangnam has turned into a meme because many people have been performing it or making comments on that. So, and then he continues, now if the photo I used for my image macro ends up on one of the many meme generating sites, and thousands of people start slapping captions all over it and posting it on various and sundry social networks, then and only then does it become an internet meme. So this is something that is important to keep in mind. So when somebody posted this one on the I Has Cheeseburger site with David Bowie's face and saying we can be memes just for one day, so playing with David Bowie's lyrics, I think I added this false because in a way it is not correct, because meme only happens when it is not just for one day, but it is for many days and on many places and sites. So I'm arguing here against it. I haven't actually posted this kind of one really bashing this person who doesn't understand what internet memes are all about. But it is interesting that we can engage in certain kind of theoretical also dialogue. I'm not going to go into this in depth, but let me just remind you that the word meme came before anybody had access to the internet, and it was coined by Richard Dawkins in his famous book, The Selfish Gene, which is, so he is an evolutionary biologist, and he coined the word meme as a sort of like a counterpart to gene. So we have genetic evolution, and then he sort of like tries to find a way of making sense of like cultural evolution, how things evolve in culture through some kind of a natural selection. And he thought, so the things that don't have to do with our DNA, but the kind of culturally passed on knowledge. So this is basically the origin of the meme talk on the internet, even though we can also say that it has been basically stripped down to a very, very basics. So very few people using the meme, internet meme, understand much or are interested in what Richard Dawkins was saying. And so Dawkins has inspired research on the sort of like memetics, and there are other researchers like Susan Blackmore who have been developing those ideas. But it is interesting that the meme science and internet memes seem to have been going pretty much to opposite directions. And I think that so Dawkins, so very few people are basing their internet memes on his thinking in any deeper sense at all. I'm going to go to a little bit faster here and just say that the way how I'm looking at this is based on my media archaeological theoretical work. So my form of media archaeology is known as also as topos archaeology. So I'm very interested in the way how media culture recycles certain kind of cliches and commonplace ideas over and over again. So I'm interested in how old and the new affect and inform each other. And so I have not only been looking at all about the internet, but many other contexts of media culture for many hundreds of years, how certain ideas develop, how they change, change their nature in time and in different places. And I started feeling that that kind of idea might be a useful way of applying it also to understanding these internet memes. So what I'm researching is, I call media archaeology a topos study also. So study of cyclically repeated, revived, refreshed formulas, motives, and processes. So these are often kind of cliches that people use for many purposes in media culture on different levels. And certainly many of the internet memes are kind of cliches, but not in a simple way. I think that media culture in general is something that recycles this kind of received ideas, so cliches and commonplaces. The old is often disguised as new. The old, as I said already, they affect each other. So how do these kind of ideas then fit into the internet culture and into our understanding of those internet memes? So my research, and this will take again too long to explain that in detail, so you can read it from my published works and writings. So I am interested in this idea about topos. I will give you a few examples of that in connection with the internet in a few moments. So topos is something like a certain kind of formula, a certain kind of a cliche that travels in time. Culture at any moment consists of thousands and thousands and thousands of such topos. So visual artists, advertisers, writers, poets, journalists, anybody take those ideas, use them for their purposes and change their meaning sometimes and that kind of things. So they are certain kind of material out of which culture is being built. Many of them are very, very old, but also new ones are created. And this is certainly the way, I think, what is happening on the internet as well. So the internet meme culture both uses very old ideas, gives them a certain kind of new meaning or new sense, and it also seems to be creating new ones. But this is an interesting topic that we should also be looking at a little bit more in detail. So I'm not going to go into this background. I'll just show you that this famous pioneer of visual culture studies, Abi Warburg, is certainly one of these kind of model figures when we try to understand this aspect of the internet. So in the 1920s, he created something, he was German, he created something he called the Mnemosyne Atlas, which was a series of this kind of huge wall panels that on which he used to pin pictures that he found from here and there. And with these wall panels, he tried to indicate how certain kind of visual ideas travel in time. But it's also a kind of a field that is a little bit like the internet. So you could even almost think about any page of the Google image search compared with that. So if you search for a certain kind of keyword, it can bring back results that are a little bit like what you see on Abi Warburg's Mnemosyne Atlas here. And so this is one of those pages. So this is a huge influence for this kind of research, which tries to show how this kind of cliches, formulas, and ideas travel from place to place and time to time, get new meanings and serve ever new different purposes. So these kind of things are just sort of like the background of some of these sort of like research that I am doing. Another figure would be the Frenchman André Malraux, who was trying to create something called Museum Without Walls in the 1940s, using reproduced images as a resource that very few people before that time had been sort of like access to. Could anybody be kind and close the front door, because could somebody go and because that sound that the gardeners obviously are doing there is a little bit annoying background sound. So thank you very much. So when I started doing this kind of research, I was influenced by this other German scholar, Ernst Robert Curtius, who was looking at many different such ideas that traveled for hundreds of years in culture. And I was actually very surprised in the beginning to see how that sort of like gives certain kind of shape for things. I will show a few of these examples very soon. I have been in my research trying to sort of like come up with different kind of ways and explanations for why media culture uses this kind of cliches. You can read more from my book, Media Archaeology. I'm just not going to go into that so that we can even hopefully have some time to discuss. So the internet, I think, is both a topos disseminator and a topos generator. So many of these old ideas are constantly traveling on the internet, and new ones are being created on that. So when we now concentrate a little bit on these image macro memes, we should ask, first of all, what is it? So how can we characterize image macro memes? And I'll show you an example in a moment. First of all, we can say that image macro memes on the internet are kind of modern emblems. So they actually join the ancient tradition of so-called emblemata. I will explain in a moment. They are also something that can be analyzed as topos traditions. So just like I explained, linking it with much older traditions. So manifestations of topoi, and also as something I would call a reflecticon. So for me, image macro meme is a reflecticon. This is a new word that I've been trying to coin. And this means a combination of reflect plus icon. So to think about and a picture. Because they often contain certain kind of thoughts condensed into that kind of thing. Sometimes they are something that I would call reacticon, so linking the word react and icon. Image reacting image or image that reacts. And certainly they are also linked with the already old internet tradition of emoticons, but only partly, I would say, and not always. And often I would say that the image macro memes are much more complex than those simple emoticons. So my message might be, forget about the word meme that has become a mess. It's topos. And now I have to confess that I originally made this meme, but others have been starting to add it with different kind of images. So I sent out to the internet an image that was said, forget about meme, it's topos. And now, but I did not put this frog in it. So someone else has done it. In a very minimal way, at least a few people seem to be interested in this kind of idea. So we are sort of like interested in looking at the ways how, for example, one of the first and the best known memes, which is of course the lolcat meme, that doesn't, I think, need any kind of a sort of like explanation here, did not come from the internet, but already from an earlier cultural context. I tried to sort of like play with this impact font myself and try to come up with some kind of a very poorly made sort of like typical lolcat caption. Is me born before the internet? And I'm sure that anybody who has done any lolcat memes will find that laughably bad. But that's how I couldn't make any better myself. I'm not a professional or specialist in making lolcat memes. But the interesting point is that we have a lot of funny cat pictures in the world of memes, and we do also find earlier postcards or ads that share many characteristics. So, for example, the sort of like speech that's supposed to be the cat's speech, cat that is dressed up as a human. So the question is, was this only found after the lolcat made its breakthrough on the internet, or did it somehow anticipate the lolcat and influence? So this kind of typical chicken and egg problem. So which came first? And I think it is a bit difficult to explain. So I mentioned that image macro memes go back to the tradition of emblems or emblemata, which is this huge tradition for hundreds of years, which just a few examples here. So emblem basically means a stereotypical image that represents an idea, society, person, or something. It is often a complex allegorical figure that may condense in itself philosophical or religious ideas. Emblems have traveled in visual and literary traditions for many hundreds of years. It's a complex field and certainly has made it to the internet, and not only to the internet but to the tattoo culture. So some emblems or emblem traditions are very central in this case, especially memento mori, which basically means remember that everybody needs to die. Remember your mortality. So there are countless such emblems from the past 500 years in many contexts. And there are countless such ones also on the internet culture. Now, interestingly, memento mori emblem, if we treat it as a kind of a meme, is actually more common, I would say, and this is difficult to prove, in tattoos than it is on the internet memes. And that obviously has to do with the fact that we talk about a real connection with the decaying flesh and the sort of like reminder that everyone will have to die. So actually this so-called old school tattoo culture, and we find this kind of pattern books for tattoos, is actually all embedded in memento mori topos culture. So much of the formal the motives and ideas that people take, so people who get interested in this so-called old school tattoos culture come from there. And this is very understandable because tattoo culture had much to do with sailors, prisoners, criminals, who actually had reasons to be afraid for their lives. So this idea that the tattoo, memento mori tattoo became taken from like graphical traditions and books and things and turned into a tattoo, sort of like tattoo representation, makes all the sense. And I actually myself think that the fact that this memento mori tattoo, and not only memento mori but related tattoo, which is carpe diem, so enjoy the day or enjoy your life as long as you can, are so important in the tattoo iconography these days, probably has to do with something with this terrible uncertainty of our lives these days. This is a very much more uncertain world than the one that in which I was born, honestly. So when I grew up as a kid, I'm a little bit older than all of you, world felt more secure than it feels these days. it also felt a little bit more simple in many ways. So for me, the fact that this kind of memento mori and carpe diem sort of like motives have become so important, and carpe diem has a huge presence on the internet meme space. For example, a couple of examples, just kind of like rather randomly taken. So you see how the carpe diem goes through it. Also in translation, seize the day is a translation of carpe diem. So some people prefer the English version of carpe diem, which is a Latin saying like that case. So may have to do with something with this sort of like cultural context. There would be many other possibilities of like linking these kind of old myths that have turned into topoi or emblems with the world of internet memes. I'll just show you very brief examples quickly, like Pandora's box. This is good guy Greg, who is also like a positive meme character. And so saying he didn't open it, he didn't take that risk that all the negative things and destruction will escape into the world, so which is part of the myth of the Pandora's box. But what I find also very interesting is that then when we look at how the Pandora idea or the Pandora's box travels within its meme space, it of course gets different kind of reference points, because obviously Pandora is also these days something more than an ancient Greek myth. Pandora is a music service. So when we get to this kind of memes, like here's a song on Pandora, begins epic music download, and it's of course you see what it is, or then the Velociraptor wonders why does it keep playing the same shit all over again. So you see that then we are not talking directly anymore about the Greek myth, but we are talking about some kind of a transition within that tradition. I think that is really interesting and needs a lot of more research. Another such meme on the internet, which is really a topos tradition, would be the world upside down. So this is another huge tradition that would take me like the whole lecture to talk about that. So for hundreds of years, people have been imagining situations where the normal state of things is turned upside down, like humans are carrying horses rather than horses humans. This is something that happened was often a motivation for carnivals, where for one day, certain kind of, or the so-called the false king's day, that kind of rituals where for one day the normal social relationships were turned upside down in the world, and other such things. So there would be much to say about the inverso mundus, or the world upside down topos, but I don't have time for that. So instead I will show you a couple of examples. So we see found a huge amount of sort of like work in the meme space that is about things turning upside down. For example, here, we sometimes get into kind of philosophical questions, like maybe here, optical illusions. It's kind of funny because it also links, optical illusions also form very long topos traditions, and this kind of like a duck, rabbit optical illusion is part of that. And then this one obviously links with Australia, the world down under. So there's a huge amount of Australia sort of like inspired memes, which is like people living upside down. There's also, of course, links with well-known meme genres like the lolcats. When a cat plays with an iPhone, it doesn't necessarily know which way to turn it. Or here, comments about certain things maybe becoming oversaturated. Now, I'm also very interested in the idea how much stop-related memes have started appearing. I think more and more in recent years, feels like some people actually might be fed up with this thing. So you see a lot when you make a search for memes with stop, you get huge amount of different variations. Some are about stopping meme wars, but others are really stopping posting memes. But of course, again, because it is a topos kind of topos tradition, it is difficult to say whether that is actually related with people's frustration or sort of like suggestion that we should stop it, or is it more like role-taking and playing with these ideas? And this is the problem of difficulty also in doing any meme research. So getting to the real meaning, why people would be posting these over and over again and coming up with variations of them. For when you try to stop meme, you easily become a meme himself. So this idea that meme is creating this kind of a reflective space of comments, not only making memes like pretty kind of recklessly, but actually thinking about meme as a form of communication, shows to me that it is actually finding a kind of pretty much like a solid role within the sort of like communication culture we have. So I'm actually interested in the idea that meme can sometimes express especially this kind of image macro meme, quite interesting and complicated ideas. Not only the Philosopher, which is dedicated to this kind of reflection on paradoxes of culture and that kind of things, but other meme characters as well. So I do think that there is something that is emerging actually here. And surely it is something that also has to do with the nature of this communication medium, not only the fact that it's square and fits better on smartphone screens and that kind of things, but it is this kind of almost like pictographic language that is pretty easy to quickly take and read, and also to make, even though I do think that sometimes people spend quite a lot of time making up these new memes. One of the really intriguing things, and I will end with this next example, is when the world of memes turns into flesh. So this relationship between memes and tattoos, I think is a very interesting thing, because tattoo is somehow something that is supposed to be understood as permanent, and in a way the opposite of the internet meme culture, which is very rapid and quickly changing, and many things are introduced. For example, when someone takes a quite beautifully made tattoo saying Gangnam Style, it really makes me wonder about the motivation and the cultural context, because I think that many people would agree that it may have been one of the biggest sort of like meme-like sensations on the internet. But when you take a Gangnam Style tattoo that you may see 50 years later, are you really sure that Gangnam Style is still that interesting as a sort of like, or sort of like such an emblem that you want to carry for the rest of your life? I understand much better the idea about having memento mori, like in this old school tattoo culture, because it is a strong personal take on this kind of emblematic culture. I want to remember that everybody, including myself, will die, and it's sort of like a reminder of like maybe for ethical behavior or whatever, or just enjoying hedonistically everything. But when it is a Gangnam Style, it sounds a little bit different. Maybe even stranger when it comes to these kind of rage comics, rage faces, which are very much a certain kind of a huge fad now. But I'm wondering whether how this certain kind of rage comic fad, which is playing with the idea about poorly drawn comics, then gets linked with the tattoo culture that that used to be about extremely beautifully made tattoos. So I'm very interested in this idea how the immaterial realm of the internet gets translated into this extremely material culture of the human flesh. It seems like there is an incredible paradox happening here. Rage comics, large on the back. Is this person always going to be as angry, or is that person angry at all? Is that actually a sweet and positive person who for some reason took this rage face tattoo? Or this loner? If somebody is lonely, this is a chart of some of these most famous, most popular ones, as you can see. So, and I think that almost all of you can find also from the world of tattoos. So I think it leads into interesting questions about the relationship between these things. This is one of the most difficult for me to understand, is this one. This is a famous meme that is based on a misspelled or poorly translated game comment. Cats, all your base are belong to us. Everybody knows that this is misspelled. Now there are many tattoos with misspellings, which is a really embarrassing thing, and there are also like a top 50 misspelled tattoos on the internet, that kind of sites. But here, when somebody takes a huge tattoo based on this misspelled line from a video game, it once again makes me wonder about this idea about culture being something that quickly evolves and changes, or some things being permanent. And this is also kind of a funny reminding that don't drink alcohol before getting a tattoo. It thins your blood and you'll bleed a lot more. But there may be other sort of like strange consequences for that. So you wake up in the morning and you have a tattoo that you don't even remember that you went taking. But then you have to live with that tattoo for quite a long time, because it's a bit difficult to kind of take it off at least completely, that kind of things. So I wanted to stop this lecture, which, as you will see, didn't present any sort of like final conclusions. It's more like a way of exploring a field that I think is extremely interesting and something that we all are somehow involved with. And so I wanted to link it with this certain kind of bodily culture, which in the internet mythology originally was often said to go away. So the internet will lead to the kind of lifestyle where we no longer think about our bodies, we are pure mind, or we are just those aliases or avatars that represent us in the world of the internet. And the fact that this all gets translated in the body is extremely intriguing, at least for me. So basically this was all I wanted to say. So thank you for your attention. And if anyone has a comment or something to add or say very much against my things, maybe we have a few moments for that. So is there anyone who has a comment?
Testing.
So and you can also email me. I'm very easy to find from the Design Media Arts website. So if any comments would be very welcome, or tips or anything like that. So if there's anything. Yes. Kate, yes.
Testing 1, 2.
So please rephrase
I'll start again.
It with the
Thank you very much for a great talk, very rich. I wonder if Twitter is also a meme, but that's where it's text-based and people are retweeting. Would you consider that a meme, or does it have to belong to, say, images? Just talking about data in a broader sense.
I think that, so basically, I haven't done too much thinking about the Twitter side, but I mean that obviously I guess that basically this kind of a internet meme culture can use any available channel on the as I tried to say, as long as it is not just kind of simply passing a message or piece of news or image, and as it is, because that is just kind of viral communication, you know. There is much more virality, so to say, even than I think there is what we link with internet meme transmissions or meme communications. But I don't see any reason why we could not think about purely textual messages, textual transformations in terms of these memes as well. So I don't see that it would have to be this kind of a multimedia form. So this Topos tradition, the way I apply that, so this Ernst Robert Curtius, who was the founder of Topos study a long time ago, so he was basically interested only in textual forms. So then this Abi Warburg was interested in visual forms, like how those visual motives travel in culture. And I don't think that it makes sense to make a distinction between these, because textual forms are often translated into images and vice versa. And probably also sound. So sound-based memes, just purely sound, so modified sound could become part of that.
So just a quick question then. The Bruno Ganz videos playing Adolf Hitler, is that a meme where people are changing the subtext, subtitles? I don't know if you've seen them, but there's millions of them on YouTube.
Those Bruno Ganz videos where he's impersonating Hitler are almost always counted into this kind of a lists of the most important and most sort of like maybe, I don't know if we can say widely spread memes, but certainly
they're very funny.
They fit into that form. So absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, so behind you.
Hi, I was wondering how important source material is for memes. So for example, like with Gangnam Style, a lot of the times they're not creating something over the original music video or even the original music. They're transforming the source material into something of their own. So you could call it, like, some of them are parodies, some of them are like quite not serious, but like, you know, meant to be a song in its own right in a production, versus like visual memes, which are definitely like you can see the connection between them in that they use the same image and they just caption it differently. So
I think that is a one type of sort of like meme string, meme transmission, where it's like Limor Schiffman says, it's the stance that is translated rather than the material itself. So this means that I don't think that it is necessary at all to sort of like take the original Gangnam Style music video and just modify that. But of course, I mean that as we see on the YouTube and elsewhere, so many people make completely their own versions. So like these kind of bedroom, sort of like home versions of many things. And certainly the idea is transmitted. So people who see that, they see and link and connect that with earlier sort of like what I would call Topos ideas. So I don't think that there's any need, I mean, if there's need for anything. So it's not necessary to sort of like for something to be counted as a kind of internet meme to be actually based on that material, either textually or in terms of the images, even though it is often that way in the field of image macro memes, for example, that kind of stock character memes and that kind of things. But certainly we have many meme genres where it is the idea that gets modified and transmitted then through many different versions.
Thanks for sharing this presentation, and also for putting. It was interesting to see meme culture in a like longer historical context. I think one thing your talk reminded me of, or I guess what's interesting that's different about memes from like the inverso mundus phenomenon and other things is the means of production and how it's like completely horizontal, and kind of rhizomatic. Like anybody can remix anyone. Like maybe like that inverso mundus thing didn't, not everyone could just draw that and put it in the magazine that was printed and sent everywhere. It reminded me. I think you also asked for comments and tips. If you're familiar with this essay by the artist Brad Trammell, it's I think it's called "What Relational Aesthetics Can Learn from 4chan," and it kind of describes the sort of cultural ecosystem on 4chan as being this like utopian sort of embodiment of relational aesthetics. But yeah, I guess it was interesting to see you still putting it in context, because there's definitely some relevant similarities there.
I don't know that essay. I would be very happy to sort of like get the reference and read it. So there is a lot of material also on the internet which is worth reading about these things. That's one thing I haven't seen, but 4chan, of course, has played a very important role in this whole evolution of this meme culture. One of those platforms where that much has been happening. So, yeah. So so one thing I hope was clear. I'm not sort of like trying to explain this whole meme phenomenon back to those historical topoi. I'm not trying to say that, that this all that's happening on this sort of like meme space on the internet is like just new versions of those old things. That's not the point. That you're not even saying that, but that I certainly didn't want to give that impression. There is an element where very early ideas are being translated, haven't disappeared, are being translated into new forms in contemporary culture. And a good example is this whole world of these emblems, whether that is tattoo aesthetics or whether it is internet. So that does exist. But at the same time, there is also the opposite, which is that I think that new visual cultural forms are certainly being molded and created on the internet, and also because of this kind of particular nature of that medium. So the fact that people tend to sort of like go towards very small, short form of expression. If you think about any messenger-based communication or the just kind of like this habit of sending, like selfies or any other types of pictures. So in that sense, I think that this sort of like, for example, image macro memes serves as a potential sort of like form, that kind of culture. And what I find interesting, like I tried to say, is that even though there are many memes that are like a rather cheap jokes and people made by people who didn't really even understand what this meme can do, there is a great amount of people who seem to have internalized that sort of like world of memes. And so they do memes because they are conscious of those memes and they want to add something to that world. And there's a surprisingly subtle, interesting, and some like intelligently funny things that you find, and often those get actually a lot of high ratings. So there is a certain kind of like a natural selection happening. People put like a poor ones, don't even understand what it is, and they don't necessarily find that much sort of like success. Even though I don't think that there's any rule. Sometimes things that seem to be hard to explain why they are so popular anyway get very high on those kind of lists, and so there are elements that are a bit difficult to explain too. Okay, so maybe that's it. So I hope that there were some interesting ideas, and like I said before, If you find something interesting and on something that you would like to add to this ongoing research, I would be more than happy to hear. Thank you very much.